Hello, my name is Gene Contover. This is the Current Buzz. Today we have Mary Maguire. She's from AAA. You know, I don't know if you know what AAA is, but she'll tell you what it's AAA. It's a society that was established many years ago when cars came out, and it's a very powerful lobbying group too. I mean, now
That's true. Yeah, the American Automobile Association, but now we simply call ourselves AAA. But yeah, founded in 1902, so we've been around quite some time and offer a great variety of services to our members. And we have about 2.3 million members here in Massachusetts, so we're very proud of that.
Million? There's 2.6 million people in Massachusetts. Isn't there, or something to that effect?
I think closer to 6.7 million.
Oh, okay.
But roughly
Sounds
one in
good.
every two drivers is a AAA member in Massachusetts. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So we're very proud of that.
You can see their trucks are on the highways. They either changing batteries or changing tires. Usually, that's mostly
That's true.
And say hello to them. They're first responders. Actually, they are first responders.
They are first responders, yeah. So certainly when the weather is cold, I know that we're anticipating some colder weather on Friday and Saturday, and it's when those temperatures get really frigid that we are the busiest, because we find that we do a lot of battery calls, a lot of people who either need a new battery, they need a jump start, or they have locked their keys in the car because they're warming up their car because it's cold out, and they managed to somehow lock their keys in the car, which I've certainly done, so I can understand that. So those are really the three big services that we provide during winter, during chilly temps. We've been pretty fortunate this winter. We haven't had a lot of super cold, sub-freezing, sub-zero temps. We do have some cold weather coming. So if your battery's 3 to 4 years old here in New England.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's probably time to have it replaced. I just had mine replaced. Mine was a little over 4 years old, and it was time. And we do have battery trucks at AAA that will come right out to your location if you're stranded at the roadside with a dead battery. And our techs will test your battery for you, and then we'll replace it if it does need to be replaced.
Right. Yeah, you could go to your mechanic and have your battery test, and I suggest that you do that if your battery's 3, 4 years old. But I suggest that you change your battery. It's very important in regards to, especially if you have children in the car and their car is an old car. You should just check the battery and also check the tires. Make sure there's air in the tires, because expanding and contraction. We know that story about football.
Well, that's right, we do, and you're absolutely right, because when we get cold temps, like in the winter, like now, what we find is that the air inside your tires contracts, and so you might need to add some air to your tires. And it's always a great idea to have your tires properly inflated. Not only does it make your tires and your ride safer, but it also improves your fuel efficiency by 3 to 4% if your tires are properly inflated.
That's true.
So always a great thing to do. And I'm so glad you brought up tires, Dean, because at this time of year, it is so important that you have the proper tread on your tires. If you're driving in snow, or if you're driving on ice, God forbid, if you're forced into that situation, or if you're driving in rain and heavy rain, we see really slick conditions.
It's safety.
When it's rainy. So you want to make sure that you've got the proper tread on your tires and that they're in good shape, because that's literally where the rubber meets the road when we're driving. It's all about safety when it comes to your tires.
Yeah, definitely. Look at your tires. If they're bald, it's time to get new tires. I mean, Mary's not selling it, but you should get new tires, and you should get it right away. And you should rotate your tires also.
And look at your kids' tires, because they don't always realize.
That's correct.
And so I do that. I scope out my kids' tires to make sure that they've got the proper tread. And nothing warms my heart more as a mom than seeing nice new tires with nice deep tread.
Or if they're new tires, Mom usually buys them. Just for the safety factor,
you're right about that.
I can't afford it. Or Dad buys it, but we're going to talk about some subjects. The new subject, February 23rd, 2020 is coming up. And it's a date that you should write down and put on your calendar, because it pertains to you out there. And it's very important that you definitely know that date and put it on your calendar and circle it in yellow or red or whatever you want to do. But explain what's happening on the 23rd of February in case my people don't
Sure.
No,
Oh, absolutely. So on February 23rd of this year, so just a little over a month from now, after Valentine's Day, the new distracted driving law in Massachusetts will take effect on February 23rd.
It's the last state, is that correct? The New England states? The other New England
That's right.
states have
All
it.
of the other New England states have it, and New York. And so we, after a long battle, were able to get the bill passed into law in November, just before Thanksgiving. So we're very proud of that, and we worked with a wonderful team of advocates, many of whom had lost loved ones, fathers, children, sisters, brothers, on the bill, and the governor signed it, as I said, just before Thanksgiving. So this new distracted driving law bans talking on the phone and holding the phone while you're talking.
Right.
So you cannot hold any kind of a mobile electronic device while you're driving as of February 23rd in Massachusetts.
And you can't text.
That's right. You cannot text. That's right. That's included
And I've
in the
seen
law.
people text in rush hour traffic.
I know.
I mean, have you seen that?
Well, texting is an epidemic in Massachusetts.
No, I understand that, but
yeah.
have you seen people texting?
Oh, I've seen people
You've
texting, reading the newspaper. I saw one person playing the trombone while they were driving on Route 495 a few years ago.
I saw
So-
a truck driver reading.
Oh yeah, I've seen people reading too.
And he had one of those long extended trailers.
Yep.
And he was reading a book. I tooted the horn. He looked over and kept on reading.
Yeah, I saw somebody with the newspaper open on their steering wheel leaving the Cape a couple of years ago in a terrible nor'easter with all sorts of rain and wind, and they were driving and they had the newspaper open on their steering wheel. So.
I got to have a better one than that. This is 93 South near Medford. A woman was taking curlers out of her hair.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Yeah, you do see people every once in a while with the rollers in. That's true.
I did see a guy shaving too.
Yeah, we always say at AAA that we've seen it all on the road.
Yeah.
You know, people obviously do all sorts of things in their car. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it's not only the smartphone, which is a potent distraction in the car, it's all forms of distraction, whether you're playing the trombone or the trumpet or reading the newspaper or taking the curlers out of your hair or tuning the radio or talking to your kids in the back seat or eating a hamburger. It's all of these things that are
Or having a hot cup of
distracting.
coffee
That
spill
too.
on you.
That's right.
And that could happen.
That's right. Eating in the car, drinking hot coffee in the car, spilling something in the car. Absolutely. All very potent distractions. So the idea of this law is to focus your attention back on the road where it belongs, to make sure that you're safe, that your passengers are safe, and that everybody else on the roadway is safe as well.
Right.
Because when you drive distracted, basically you're endangering not only yourself and your passengers, but everyone else on the roadway. And we have a responsibility to drive safely. And that's really what we're all about, working in traffic safety and public affairs at AAA. In fact, we're having an event in Rockland, and you're certainly welcome to come, Dean. We're doing an event at our Rockland AAA branch on Valentine's Day in anticipation of the new law going into effect February 23rd. And the event is called Love Your Fellow Driver, or Heart Your Fellow Driver. Since it's Valentine's Day, don't drive distracted.
Valentine's Day.
So the registrar will be joining us. We'll have a number of folks there, advocates.
Oh, the
for
new
the bill.
registrar.
Yep, the new registrar.
Who is the
will
new
be there.
registrar?
Jamie Tesler is his
Jamie
name.
Tesler. Jamie.
So he will be there with us. And we've invited legislators who worked on the bill, and of course, legislators from Rockland, as well as the police chief and members of the state, as well as municipal police, to be there with us. So we'll have a full house on that day, and we actually will have 3 vehicles there that day. And we'll be doing demonstrations, how-to demonstrations, to teach people how they can retrofit their car, no matter how old it is, so that it can be hands-free, so that you can talk hands-free in your car.
That's interesting that you say that. Ask your children how to do it. They know.
That's true.
They know. If they, talk to your children, especially if they're in high school. They know how to retrofit their car to receive phone calls. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, that's good advice, I think, with any form of technology. It seems like the kids always have a much better idea of how to
ahead
make
of the
things
curve.
work. That's right, exactly. So that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
But, the newer cars have things like Apple CarPlay, or they're Bluetooth enabled.
I have Bluetooth.
Okay, so you're all set. But you know, as long as you have a mount, the new law says that if you have a mount, it must be on your windshield, your dashboard, or your center console in a way that it doesn't obstruct your view.
So
you
that
can mount your phone and still refer to it for GPS if you're using it for directions.
Okay, so that's Waze, more or less. A lot of people use Waze, W-A-Z-E. It's an app. You put it on your phone, and it will tell you. It will even tell you where the police officers are hiding. I shouldn't say that on the air, but.
No, you shouldn't.
But it does. It says, you know.
It's a traffic app.
It's a traffic app, and if you're interested in getting it, it's W-A-Z-E, and it's used all over the world.
That's true. And we also have a great AAA mobile app.
Oh,
by the way,
AAA.
we have our own AAA mobile app that gives you information on traffic, gas stations nearby,
Cheap gas
hotels.
stations?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, it will allow you to look at the prices and get the best
Okay.
prices for gas.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have to be a member, right?
That's correct.
To get that.
Yeah.
So a membership, I think, was $54 for a year. You can add your children on, and I suggest that you do that because you know I've added my child on.
Associate members. Yeah.
Associate members, and it's good for them to have that security if they're in the middle of nowhere, especially if they're going to college, even if it's out of state.
Well, and you know, you definitely want your kids to have AAA when they're driving home from college. I always advise parents, make sure that your son or daughter driving home from college, especially if it's in the winter, has a winter emergency kit, and most importantly, a cell phone with a charger, so that if your son or daughter does have to call for help in the event of an emergency, that they're not sitting with a dead cell phone. So that charger is so important, especially for college students. And again, doing things like checking their tires, making sure that they're buckled up, that they're wearing their seatbelts. It's so important. Making sure that the other college students they're driving with are safe drivers too.
And tell them not to have, if they're under 21, not to have any liquor in the trunk of the car or in the car. I mean, that's
true. Yeah. We don't want any liquor in the car of anybody of any age.
Yeah. No, I agree with it, but sometimes you know the kids put their bags in, and the driver doesn't know that there's something in the bag.
Yes, that's true.
And that rule has to be set before you have
That's very true. Yeah, we don't want people to drive drunk, drowsy, or distracted. And a lot of drowsy college students out there as well. There are a lot
that's true.
Kids who are coming home who have just stayed up all night to take an exam or finish a paper, and then they pile into the car and head home.
You have children that have gone to college, right?
Yes, I have 3 who have gone to college.
So
I've experienced all of these different things.
You know, Mary, you know these things. I know we talked about the phones. I know that you wanted to talk about Slow Down, Move Over. That's another AAA
campaign initiative.
Explain that if people haven't heard it before, and it's good information. So.
Of course, yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show and to talk about all of these
things. No, we love
having
you. I mean, this is what, the third time you've been on this?
I think it's my third visit. Yeah, always love.
We love having you. Yeah.
Well, always love coming to Chelmsford at Parker Middle School. So, so our Slow Down, Move Over campaign is really all about protecting first responders and those who work at the roadside. So that includes any emergency responder, firefighter, police officer, tow truck driver.
Let's not forget the tow truck drivers.
That's right, exactly. And we just recently, in the past year and a half, had 2 tow truck drivers at AAA who were seriously injured, hit by passing motorists. Yeah. So we actually, because of that and because of the fact that we're always very concerned about protecting our first responders, we have put together our Slow Down, Move Over campaign, which is all about urging motorists to uphold and follow the law on the books in Massachusetts and in virtually every other state in this country. It's called Slow Down, Move Over in Mass. In other states, it's sometimes called the Move Over Law. But basically what the law requires here in Mass and in other states is that if you see red, yellow, or blue lights at the roadside, in other words, if an emergency responder is working at the roadside, you are required to, if it's safe to do so, move over to the next adjacent lane to give that emergency worker room to do do his or her very important work. And if you can't move over safely to the next adjacent lane, the law requires you to curb your speed, to slow down. So slow down or move over when you see red, yellow, or blue lights at the roadside. We've created a number of public service announcements that are running in all parts of our territory.
Okay.
So we have a public service announcement running right now in Massachusetts. It's been running on Channel 5, on Channel 4. The Mass State Police are running it. The Highway Safety Division have been running it as well. And it is a public service announcement urging motorists to slow down and move over. And it features a lieutenant from the Massachusetts State Police, as well as one of our injured tow truck drivers, and Sam Kennedy, the president of the Boston Red Sox, was kind enough to also appear in the PSA. So these PSAs, you can see them in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island, in New York, in New Jersey, and Connecticut, in all parts of our AAA Northeast territory. So we really hope that people will remember that those who are working at the roadside are working hard to protect all of us.
That's correct.
So the idea is protect those who protect you, slow down and move over. And remember that here we are in what could be called our office in the studio. Imagine, Dean, if we had cars whizzing by us at 65 or 70 miles an hour or more, and they're just a few feet away. So the idea is to move over and give them space to do their important work.
Isn't there a law now, before this slowdown, where you're going through a construction site, you're supposed to go half the mile?
Yes, you also,
which never happens.
You also need to absolutely slow down in construction zones, and we really include those workers in our slow down, move over campaign, because whether you're driving through a construction zone or you're driving through an emergency response zone, you need to make sure that you're giving those people who are doing this very important work the proper buffer zone.
Yeah, use your signal light when you're switching lanes, please. That's part of the law.
That's true too, I know.
You know, I mean, people should be using their signal lights. I know in California you get a ticket for not using it on the highway, but I don't want to talk about California versus Massachusetts.
No, very important to use your directional signal.
Exactly.
And also people remember to yield. It seems like very few people yield anymore. They just come blasting
You know
out.
what? I found out a gentleman was telling me his granddaughter was in the passing lane. She thought it was a high-speed lane. She didn't know it was a passing lane. Mm-hmm. So people stay in that third lane and hog that lane instead of going into the second or first lane.
That's right.
It's a passing lane.
That's
it's
correct.
not a high-speed lane. That's why in Massachusetts, trucks are not allowed to go into the passing lane.
Right. So you're absolutely right. The left lane is for passing, so you're supposed to get into the left lane, pass, and then get back into the middle lane or the right lane. You're
Please
not
get
supposed
into
to
that
stay in the
habit.
left lane.
You're
absolutely right.
It's important.
And turn your lights on when it's raining and snowing. That's a law,
You're supposed to do that.
If your wipers are going, your headlights should be on.
Headlights. What about the idling law? A lot of people don't know that you can't idle your car for 5 minutes while you're going to the ATM machine. That's why you don't see school buses now idling outside the school anymore.
So bad for the environment and so unnecessary for your car as well. So typically, if you let your car warm up for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, that's plenty of time.
It's not like the old days where you'd have to warm up the car for 5 minutes and then jump in the car and everything.
That's true.
You know, it's the blocks have changed, the oil has changed, and now you're more synthetic, so it's not as crazy as it used to be when you'd have to, loosen up the. We only have 5 minutes left, but I wanted to get down to talk about the new licensing of the. What do they get? Real license.
The Real ID.
Real ID. October of 2020.
That's correct.
It has to be completed.
That's right. That's the deadline.
That's the deadline. Explain AAA what they're doing. You now can go, if you're a member, you can go to the AAA and get your license renewed there and some other things.
That's right.
So why don't we talk about that?
So this is a federal requirement for
Real
a more
ID.
secure license. And so in order to fly domestically or go into a federal building, you will need a Real ID. If you don't have a passport, you will need a Real ID as of October.
Card.
That's right, as of October 2020. Right. So we are, in addition to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, we're working with them through our AAA RMV partnership to also offer registry services in our 30 branches here in Massachusetts, our 30 AAA branches. And we also offer Real ID. So what you do need to know is that, first of all, you should go to the RMV website, RMV/Real ID, and look up the requirements, because it really makes a difference if you take a look and see what kind of documentation you'll need for this enhanced license before you go into a AAA branch or into one of the RMV service centers.
You'll need your birth certificate with the embossed seal.
That's right.
Or a passport or something to that effect.
Or also, a Social Security card.
And I think, and a Social Security
And a Social Security card. And in Massachusetts, by the way, that Social Security card cannot be laminated.
That's right.
So a lot of people have laminated Social Security cards.
That's right.
So,
or some people have these metal Social Security cards. Doesn't mean anything. It has to be from a real Social Security card.
That's
you
right.
You can't laminate it. And it's a long story about lamination, but you know, it could be doctored. But that's another story. Also bring your bill with your name and address so they can match it with your license address, etc.
Right. So the things that we talked about, the passport, the birth certificate with the seal, the Social Security card, are proof of what's called lawful presence.
Right.
And in addition to that, you need proof of residency. And that is typically a W-2, for example, an income statement, a utility bill. You can even use the letter that the RMV sends to you saying that it's time to renew your license that has your address on it, so hang on to that.
Or it could be a hospital bill, something that shows your address.
Right, and all of those documents are listed on the website.
Right.
And we also have checklists in our AAA branches, and we'll help you out with that. But one of the things that's important to remember about that proof of residency is that those documents cannot be any older than 60 days. Also, that's right. And if you've had a name change, which typically impacts women who've gotten married and they have a different name on some of their documents than they might have on their birth certificate, they will need some kind of proof of the name change, such as the marriage license.
Marriage license.
So that's another thing to
Or
really
if you
pay
get
careful
divorced
attention to.
and change your name back to your maiden name, you need a statement to that effect from the court saying that you changed name with the seal. You just can't just have a copy.
Right.
No copies. This is a real deal.
So this is all explained on the website, on the RMV website, as well as our AAA.com website. You can go AAA.com/registry, and all of these things are explained.
Make sure you have these documents before you go in. There's no sense of going in and they'll say no, and then you'll have to come back and set up another date. Make sure you have all the documents before you go in.
That's right.
And it has to be done by October 220. I'm sorry, I like that date. 220. But you could get into a building with your passport or your passport card. There's a new card that looks like a driver's license. You can use that to board planes, and that's cheaper, by the way. Check it out on the website, U.S. State Department, and you can get a passport card for $30 or something like that for 4 years, where the license is more money. But that's another time. So we have less than a minute. Anything you want to say real quick?
Well, we know you have a passport because you go to Greece. I know that. So have you been recently?
No. Mostly France. France and England.
Oh,
UK.
that's great.
So
Good for you.
yeah, definitely. It's cheaper. You can go now. You can go to Paris right now on Norwegian Air for $325 round trip.
Well, Norwegian Air has some prices.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Look up Norwegian Air. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, great to be here.
Good to see
Thank
you
you.
again.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you.